Hey guys,
Veronica,
Andrew,
and Nate here. We are
Foodies Watching Movies,
a podcast dedicated to
awesome movies,
great food,
and that's about it.
Check us out on the JIC network at www.journeyintocomics.com.
Maybe throw some money over to our Patreon.
So we can eat this week.
And now, your feature presentation.
The following
is a
Journey into Comics.
Journey into Comics.
Journey into
Is a
Comics
Journey into Comics.
Journey into Comics.
Journey into Comics.
Network.
production. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 30 of Puhr 360. Yes, this is a show where we cover topics, things of importance, things that are going on in the world. And this is a little bit of a different kind of episode because, as people have been following me for a while know, that this is kind of the third/fourth iteration of this show. This started way back in almost, 2 years, 3 years to the day?
Almost,
you know, Nate?
2 years exactly.
Almost 2 years exactly, yes. Nate Phillips, the Podfather himself, is joining me here on this episode.
Yo.
How you doing today, Nate?
Dude, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's cool to be on this show with you and actually talk together instead of me filling in.
Yeah, because you're the only one who's filled in on this show. You've been on other shows, but you've solo done this show, well, back when it was the Puhr Report. Did 2 episodes back when I was traveling so much for work and just had a lot going on, and you stepped up and helped me out, and it was a huge help.
Man, I think that's one thing, I'm not going to lie, I really love about this network is every show I believe in and every show I listen to, so I know what your guys' flair is, I know what the style is, and I also know when I listen to the show, the certain things that I would tweak or do in my style. So when you told me, hey, way back at 14, I need somebody to fill in, it was like an emergency situation. I think you had to fly out to Utah or something last second.
I was catching the flight. I was I'm leaving in an hour, and I don't have time to record.
And I was like, dude, I literally, I can do this. I have it, and I filled in. And then I think not necessarily the exact same circumstance, but something to where work shifted your ability to record on that second time I filled in. And it was just oh, I got this, man. This is Puhr Report, and now, Puhr 360, which is all bringing everything full circle, because it's a little bit of the 2 shows that were in the middle with your news and your entertainment, as well as some of the original Puhr Report itself when you are topical, and then now with 360 you have all those things, as well as a platform to talk about other things that you haven't yet discussed.
Exactly. I know this being episode 30, I got a lot planned, kind of taking this thing forward, and I can see this thing definitely going a while. And we know we just had a big milestone with the network. We saw that podcast, we just crossed the 100 episode threshold. Yeah,
and as we release this tomorrow, which is going to be the 6th, we are 1 day shy of the 2-year anniversary of the Journey into Comics network, if you can believe it.
Wow, that is exciting. Could you imagine? I know you've talked about it before on the OGs and stuff, but did you ever think you'd get to a point where the network that you and Brandon started is now 2 years old and has spawned countless podcasts now?
It is kind of crazy, and sometimes it gets overwhelming, but honestly, I look at it and it's all great. Across the board. And you know what, AP, I'm glad we're talking about this here on your show, because you're a great representation of why I thought the network was gonna work. You're somebody who I love talking to. I think you have a great viewpoint in the world. You're a very level-headed individual. You have a solid voice. You also have a background doing, radio type things and being and political and all those kind of things. So you were somebody who when we reconnected, I was like, man, he would do so many cool things with a podcast. So when the network was spawned, you were probably the 3rd person that we reached out to total, between me reaching out to Brandon and making it official, and then I think Dick to see if he was coming and joining what we were planning, or if he was not joining. And then we asked you immediately, would you like to do this show? I think it would be something fun. It allows you to bring the Puhr Report out of retirement from your Bradley days, and allows you then also to expand on that, man.
Yeah, because literally when the Puhr first started, which I've talked about when I started the podcast, it was literally a radio show. Like, I played music, I talked a little bit, and that was kind of the extent of it. And I was actually able to evolve this and put on flair on it. Obviously, no music or not much music, but it was nice to actually bring that out and actually kind of dive into some topics that I was interested in, and it wasn't restricted because it was my show. Even though it was on this network, I had full creative control over what I could and couldn't do.
Exactly. I don't want to tell you what to do. You do it yourself.
Right. It's like, I don't tell you how to do JIC. You don't tell me how to do the show. But it all still cohesively works together because we all kind of know each other, know what we all bring to the table, and it really just allows us to make something great.
Yeah, and it allows you as a podcast creator, because it's not just about you covering the news, covering topics. You have a very and more historical than some, and I feel you in this too. But you know about the political world. You've seen people run campaigns. I think you also ran some campaigns when you were in school and whatnot. So
Yeah.
you know, you've been in it. So for you to dive into that world is one thing. But then, like, I've loved peeling back, and then, you know, from Puhr, rapport, news, entertainment, now 360, you also spawned out Adulting Ain't Easy. And, you know, to look at it, you know, just in the Puhr shows, you know, just in your namesake show, and every Tuesday you've always stayed the pillar of Tuesday, my friend. But
Yeah.
you're like, what? This has to be 99 or 100 or something, 100 episodes.
Yes, this is 100 episodes that I have podcasted myself on a show that is just me. If you remember back, because obviously you co-hosted too, so, and I started the same week as Podcastrophe, so they had theirs last week. So you'd think, oh, this is my 99, but I remember on the Puhr Report, I had a weird idea. I'm like, I got two different shows here. Do you care if I just drop them both on the same day? And you're like, yeah, go for it.
That was 28 and 29, I believe. Or 38
Right.
and 39, somewhere in there. It was the 8 and the 9 of that run, though. I remember very specifically. And it was like, why would I say no to that? It's cool. It's something different. We have no reason not to drop content. It, you know, kind of set the stage for what would become two-a-days when we would have shows running alongside of Best of the Week, you know, and just having a show run at 6 a.m. and then a show at noon. It gives some space, and you know, so, again, your show really helped flesh out the vision that is what we have now, I think.
I agree. I really appreciate you saying that. But yeah, I think what that first week's schedule, I think, really kind of set the groundwork for how the network was going to proceed. Like, we saw how the week was brought up. We saw how doing the weekends. That was when you got your idea to have an episode, a content each day of the week. I remember that was one of the things you wanted from the very beginning of the network.
Well, and I think it was, you know, at the very beginning of the network, I had really high hopes. Like, I wanted to come guns a-blazing, day one, like 7 days a week, here we go. But we really didn't have nearly enough shows. We had any kind of idea how to actually produce other people and give insight. And then we were, you know, having people send in trial episodes or pilots, as it were. And every time we'd listen, we'd be like, fuck yeah, of course you're going to get through, man. Like, you did exactly what we wanted you to do. You were just yourself. And that's what's more important. You're hearing it. I don't know if the audience is hearing it. But even here on Puhr 360, we get the train of our existence showing up in the Journey into Comics network.
And it's still weird, like, because when I listen in on the episodes that, like, it comes up, I don't hear the train. But just being in the room, or being like how we're doing now, it sounds loud and clear. So it's definitely the magic of editing that you don't hear that.
Well, and really, I think if you're wearing headphones, you would more likely hear it than if you were just in open space or like in a car, because it's such low white noise. It would be drowned out. But if you were like locked into some noise-canceling headphones, you'd be like, oh shit, the train of our existence just came in my face. Oh god, here we go.
Oh my gosh. And I remember, like, at least back in the early days, I think you were podcasting yourself or involved in a podcast, like 75% of the schedule, I think, was kind of how it started out. And now you've gotten able to step back and let some other creators kind of take front and center. Like, even with Foodies with which that you and Veronica started and I kind of helped out with, it's kind of become like Veronica's kind of the one front and center and able to kind of drive that ship, and you're able to enjoy being a passenger as opposed to the driver.
Yes, absolutely, well said. And I think that being there hand in hand with a lot of these shows, kind of like Brandon was the training wheels for Dick and Podcastrophe, I was a little bit of training wheels. Some of the other shows we had ideas for. Brandon and I had already had the report for wrestling or whatever. But then now, like, their ideas, I'll talk to you off air about some of these ideas, but I've had a couple of the people within our network come up with, well, we've got a couple new show concepts, but then also we've had somebody that came to me and wants to take one of my shows and re-visualize it for a season. And it is a brilliant idea. I'm hopeful that we can pull it off how we see it happening. I'll tell you more about that later. But yeah, like, I really, just to, I guess we're reminiscing because it's 100 episodes here, but like, I really love creating with all you guys on the network because it is a little bit of something different. It is, you know, AP and I will do a show that's totally different than how Tyler and I would do a podcast, or the same could be said for Brando or any number of people. You plug in any people, and the cool thing is too is AP could totally go do a podcast with Tyler and Dick, and it would be phenomenal. We can have crossovers however we want, whenever we want, with whoever we want, and it will always work because we all have this like camaraderie / rapport, and we all respect each other. Like, if you're putting the work in to do a podcast, you understand what it means to be doing a podcast, either week in and week out or bi-weekly. It's still taxing.
Right.
It's not just easy.
I agree 100%. You can see that, like, we don't get to the milestones we're getting as the network, as these shows going on second seasons on 100 episodes without knowing to put the work in. There's not going to be, like, people who don't have the endurance, they don't have that fire in them, they don't make it this far. These are the shows that make it 10 episodes, 12 episodes, and then go their separate ways. Or it gets retooled and they do other things with it.
Or you have like a crazy unfortunate thing where you have somebody as dedicated and loving to podcast as Chris Plant who gets fucked. And Crucial Tunes right now is only an 11 episode show. We do hope and really expect it to become a second season, and we, you know, once he gets able to get back into the thick of things. But, you know, that's a circumstance that it's like, it's not expected. And you're right. It's hard as fuck to get to like 7 or 8 episodes on a show, and even to just maintain that, you know, in and of itself, because you have to constantly be thinking with your best creative foot forward, and you can't just go walk into a show and go, well, I can talk to somebody that's good enough, because even though it kind of is, it kind of isn't. I can't just sit here on autopilot with you. I'm thinking about our conversation, obviously.
Right, because if you're just on autopilot, then it really... It shows you're kind of phoning it in, and at that point, why do it? You're wasting your time, you're wasting the listener's time. You got to be bringing something to that conversation to make it worthwhile. Like, I'll listen to, like, I used to just listen to audiobooks, and now I just listen to a ton of different podcasts. Like, I fell backwards into, because my podcast player randomly start playing like the next episode and what I'm subscribed to. So I was doing something, and it randomly dropped me into Dungeons with Dudes, which I haven't watched, unfortunately, just because I really feel like I need to like pay attention because it kind of jumps in. All of a sudden, like, there's guys talking with country accents, and I'm like, what the hell is happening? And then listen for like 45 minutes while doing other things.
So the cool thing about that episode that you're talking about, which is a fiasco out west, I do believe, that's actually a self-contained episode. You can listen to that, and it has nothing to do with any other further stories. Fiasco is a game that every time you play it, it's different. It has different scenarios because you're always role-playing different variations on characters that already exist mixed with your own ideas. So it's like you literally have 2 to 4 hours of setup time for one Fiasco game because you're deciding what your characters are, how their relationships are formed. So then when you actually play the game, it's almost as if it's a single self-contained story.
Okay. And was Fiasco the game that we also played at LoftyCon?
Yes,
was that
sir.
The one that you guys played?
That was the first time they play tested it. We live play tested it. It was a little bit of a train wreck, yeah, but it was still good. They've done several episodes since. They've done 3 full campaigns. The Death House, Barovia Bros, and now Valor and Valaki. Valor and Valaki, that's hard to say. But so Brews with Dudes is just soldiering on just as well, man. Or Dungeons with Dudes is soldiering on. Brews with Dudes is soldiering on. They're on their way to episode 100. We're going to be recording that, I think, on the 15th of September, so that's pretty exciting. Yeah, man.
It's just it's amazing that you see like these shows that you remember when they were ideas or parts of ideas. Like,
Oh yeah, man.
and now I think and now Brews Dudes has a like they have a product. They have a beer that exists. It's in the world. People have tried it. It's like
Crazy.
it's amazing what can come from a simple idea.
You couldn't have said it any better, because it does. It starts with a small spark, and it takes everybody just kind of like, even in little things, man. You know, you, I think, undercredited yourself quite a bit when you said you had a little bit to do with foodies. You're, again, a very big integral part to that show, because when it was still a concept, you were throwing ideas at that concept that helped kind of form what we wanted to do, and that's why I was like, you should just be a part of this shit, dude. Like, duh. It makes the most sense, you know? And of course, you know, with scheduling mixed with you going to Africa and everything that's been happening, we haven't had a good episode of Foodies together. We've been doing some episodes of Foodies, but they haven't been all together now like we want them to be. We are trying to plan to make that happen very soon. So
Right. I know, like, this season's been a little rough just because I think it started right before I got married, and then this whole year's just been kind of crazy since.
Absolutely. You're in your first year of wedlock, my brother.
I know, and I'm really, it's all going great, and then I'm excited because I keep hearing, when I listen to Foodies, they're getting close to the 90s bracket, and I'm excited to jump in and go in all in on that.
I need you and Liz to send me your top 25 lists so I can start to figure the bracket out. That's something I wanted to tell you. So I guess I'm telling you here and now.
I'll let her know, and we'll get that over to you, because I know that's coming up. I know we got something planned in an episode forthcoming, and then we'll have the finale not too far after that. So yeah, we'll definitely have that ready so we can lock on, have a great episode. And now that, since we'll have a hopefully be sitting at it'll be an odd number. Yeah, we'll be sitting at an odd number, so shouldn't end up with a tie this time.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Because I still remember on the 80s bracket, because I had to leave, and then you guys were stuck at a tie and had to ask the world to help you.
And then I tried to call you, and it couldn't go through for some reason.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, my phone was, I remember, like watching the video, like, trying to call me live, and nothing went through, and then I was like, I was right here, I had service, what happened?
No!
I would have changed the vote! No,
it would have totally been Ferris Bueller that won if we would have called you.
Yeah, it's all good.
Would have changed everything. Damn it.
The 90s bracket will be another, lots of fun.
It's going to be
especially
brutal.
With a lot of, especially with, I think that there's a lot of Kevin Smith in the 90s, and we know how we feel about Kevin Smith.
Oh yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, I got to get my tickets for Reboot. I know I want to go see that.
Hell yes, absolutely. So what are we doing here today, man? I'm a guest on your show. Am I the first official guest on your show?
No, because I went through. You're, I think, the third, because I had Tyler on one, and I had Liz on one when I was doing the pet series. I did like 3 episodes on pets, pet keeping, all of that, and I had Tyler and Liz on.
Those were like the early days of pre-adulting, huh?
No, that was I think that was early this year.
Oh, I can't.
It was pre-adulting season 2, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah.
It was during that layover period, so it all worked out. But yes, I have you on here, and this is kind of the first pretty much on-brand episode, even though it's been a bit of a tangent to begin with. But it's always great to get the good conversations out. But this is a show that kind of delves into politics, current events, all of that. And I kind of want to know your journey into politics. Because obviously, when we first met, we really didn't get into that too much. It was just, it's weird conversation for friends really to have now. But I know you've gotten a lot more into it since then, and especially now with the climate we're in and what's going on in the world. So I kind of want to know how you got to where you are now in terms of that. If it's something that's always been in the back of your head, or, I don't know, take me through it.
It's very interesting when I think about politics, because looking back, I remember the first time I quote-unquote voted, I was a kid, and it was in, I was probably in, it must have been the 94 election. I was in 3rd or 4th grade. Ross Perot was going up against Bill Clinton and Bob Dole. Okay, it's a real weird card. And even back then, I, thought it was cool to have an opinion as a kid. I was like, this is neat. Like, they want me to say who I liked. Well, I clearly thought that Ross Perot should win. Dun, dun, dun. Actually, I think I voted Clinton, but I put it in whatever, and it was no big deal. And that happened in '94, and then politics really doesn't exist to me until the end of Clinton's second term. You had the whole Lewinsky thing, and that was something that kind of blew up as I was growing up, and I remember that. But then, out of that, you had the craziness of the recount in Florida for the 2000 election.
Right, and that's the first one that I remember. I remember in fifth grade seeing that happen. That was where I kind of jumped into this whole political sphere and paying attention to all that.
Same, exactly the same. It's where my mind was captivated because I felt the fate of our nation relied on somebody like Al Gore, who had already been, and I mean, he's calling it back then, climate change is real, we need to get on the ball. That's 20 years ago at this point. And now it's really a problem, and the clock is really ticking. And you look at that moment in time, and I thought that we were screwed when they kind of fucked, I guess is the way to say it, Al Gore out of winning that presidency, and how everything went down with the quote-unquote recounts and the missed ballots.
The Florida and everything, and yeah.
The insanity of the whole circus of it all drove me to be like, well, when I get old enough, I want to make a change. I want to do something about it, And I followed closely with politics, of course. The very next year we have 9/11, so that kind of boasts my patriotism up as well, and I'm like, I really want to help make a change. So all through high school, I kind of had it in my head, as soon as I get out of high school, I'm running for political office in this town. I don't care. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the point of it is, but I want to at least try to make things better. That was my end goal for the whole thing.
Weren't you also considering the military too at one point, or was that...
Well, I mean, yeah, and you guys can get that back on the episode I did with Tyler, where I was 16 or 17, and I got a call from the Navy, and I got a call from the Marines both. And the Navy, once I talked to them, they were really interested in me, and they were checking off boxes, man. And they got to medical conditions, and they asked, do you have any medical conditions? I was like, well, I mean, I have chronic migraines, but... And they literally hung up on me.
Oh.
And I never heard from any military branch ever again. They, never reached out. They blacklisted me because I have it. I don't know that officially, but I never received another phone call from anyone. No one was interested in me. So it was okay, whatever.
So put you on blast. All right, this guy, just don't call him. He can't use it.
I was Steve Rogers, man.
Yeah.
I was just fucking
you just change your name and go under, I have no medical issues, that's fine, let's go.
In hindsight, that would have been very stupid because, anyways, but... So in 2005-ish, going into 2006-ish, there were talks, and then there was about to be an election in Hoopeston. They were having aldermen. I was in Ward 4, and... coincidentally enough, one of the aldermen in Ward 4 is my stepdad, and I wasn't running against him because he wasn't up for re-election, another guy was. And I ran, and I got interviewed by Channel 3, WCIA, Channel 3 News, that, as the Central Illinois local news. They came to my grandma's house on Easter and did this big piece on me and talked to me and stuff, And my whole thing was I just want to make a change, and it's also cool because I would be the youngest person in history to have made a change. Right. As far as an elected official in a city, I would have at that time been the youngest because I was 19. So it was a really interesting piece, and there was some buzz, and I had some ideas, and I was looking at it now really naive at what I wanted to change, and I think now I would go from a more a base of economics, especially looking at how Hoopeston example. Okay, so this because you live in Illinois. Illinois is going to become the 11th or 12th state to have recreational cannabis, right?
Right.
And so that's a big thing. The whole state has decided it's cool. Okay. Mm-hmm. I get a phone call from my dad. He's like, "You'll never believe this shit." I'm like, "What's up, man?" He's like, "Hoopeston City Council's talking about making legal weed illegal here."
Just in the city of Hoopeston.
Yeah, and I'm like, do you realize how back fucking water that is? That is going to be something that economically boosts their town. And they're saying,
right.
No, thank you. We would rather not have money. And they keep making those kind of moves. So like I said, now that I'm a little bit older, the economical side of me goes, this is not right. They need to be doing something fucking different, man. But I lost by 6 votes. I also learned from about 40, and that is not an under number, about 40 people were turned away at the polls where they were supposed to be able to vote for me in Ward 4, and they were told, no, you have to vote for this other thing, which was a Ward 5 ballot that had no competition. It was a one-person vote. So they literally just like kind of, and the even crazier thing, the guy that won where people were getting turned away was his church, his local fucking church.
Oh, so it was kind of not quite a conspiracy, but it was planned. They were trying to make sure his guy got in.
Exactly, and as a 19-year-old, I see the crookedness of it, and I was like, wash my hands of it. I want to have nothing to do with that side of politics. Like, if I'm going to make a change, right, I'm just going to be an advocate for change. Like, I'm going to make my voice heard. I'm going to stand my ground and stand my opinions and know if I get into verbal warfare, quote-unquote warfare with somebody about a topic, I know what I'm talking about in any given thing I'm going to debate with you about. I don't just go in and say, oh, let's debate gun control, and then I just fucking spout off a bunch of nonsense that doesn't make any sense to the possibilities of what we can do in this country. I've looked at the laws, and I know, and you guys are going to hear this when eventually we get to the next episode of The Voice Survival. I'm like teasing it here, but like I know why gun reform worked so well in Australia. I literally researched that entire Port Arthur massacre in its entirety. I know the whole story, you know, and they have not had but like a total of 20 shootings on that entire continent since 96. So that's a pretty huge change from a crazy massacre down to 20 total.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, man, I'm very passionate about politics. I, was very vocal for Barack Obama and his presidency. And did he do everything perfect? No. Were there some things that are maybe a gray area? Sure. But it doesn't, like, if you're looking at it, at least in my opinion, one president's ups and downs should not be the bar for other presidents. What should affect a president's, like, our viewpoint of a president, when you think about somebody like Abraham Lincoln, what do you think of it? I don't give a fuck that he's a Republican, which, of course, the Republican Party reformed. I know, I understand that whole, how it actually is kind of democratic at that time or whatever, but, like, Abe Lincoln reformed our country. He healed a nation in civil war. Dude, all the things that he put in place to change our nation for the better, if they would have been implemented then, we probably wouldn't have had a civil rights movement in the 60s. We wouldn't have had as much drama as we've had with our country and black people being unfairly selected by police and other people to be targets. You know, like...
Right.
Again, all these things, man, it's just like my voice for politics is so strong. I have my finger on the pulse. I'm always watching all the different things. We're going to be talking about it. Obviously, it's one of the things you wanted to discuss with me, but we did just recently have the first large set of debates for the Democratic caucus and whatnot.
Right.
So, yeah, man, I'm just always on that stuff. I'm always keeping my ear to the ground and just trying to... keep myself educated as best I can, and I never just take one story at face value. I dive deeper. You have to. You absolutely must.
Mm-hmm. So I know that speaking of that, like, obviously it's a lot easier now to be kind of more informed, just because information is being thrown at us constantly. Like, there's
the advent of Facebook, man. You get your information so quick, and then you know what? One thing I want to briefly just touch on: mad props to Facebook for adding the Snopes fact checker to the article thing now. You know, I've seen it.
That is nice.
And it's like automatic. You don't have to look and see if there's a Snopes article. It attaches for you. Because it's like, this is a true fucking story here. Can you believe this?
Right.
That's huge. In an era where you have a president spouting that there's fake news, and that's directed at the opposition on the other side of the aisle, and then in reality, the side that is defending the president is actually creating fake news and mass hysteria. You know, so it's like this, like, completely backwards dichotomy fucking thing.
Right. Just like I said, with the advent of all this, with news, we saw that, really the fake news, which is obviously not whatever you hear it, what you think of, but there's been so much, it's almost like clickbait to an extreme. It's just super negative stuff that has no basis in reality, that's enough to, like, scare people into thinking, like, they said what? Like, I see so many things about, that Congresswoman Cortez, the
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. out of the 14th
Yes.
district of New York. I know, brother. I fucking know.
AOC. But yeah, like how, like there's some of the things like I remember it became this big thing just recently about she had some of her staffers were leaving. They're trying to frame it that it's because she's horrible and all this. And it's like no, she's just platforming these people to get her agenda out there into the world, and like they're moving on to better things. She's not like making them want to leave. She's like, you should go do this. This is better for you to do. This can help all of us. And people are only seeing the negative of that.
Well, and I think that what what we're seeing in this country is also this like, and I'm going to just keep it real here, brainwashed boomerism. Because I think there are so many baby boomers that have been locked into that Fox News rhetoric for so long that they'll believe a fucking turd being served to them is a fucking Big Mac from McDonald's that's freshly made for them, you know? And they'll eat that shit up, literally. That's not like any kind of metaphor. They will. And I think that Fox News is a lot more seedy and undermining to our democracy than people give it credit for. Because I think that a lot of the strings that are getting pulled are because these old school Christian conservative types who think that our nation was built on that and only that. Mm-hmm. The, again, falsifying of one nation in 53, we added under God. That thing wasn't there before, now it is under God. So in that change, when that change comes, these boomers are all locked into that belief. And then you have Vietnam where people were firmly against it. So now these hippies have been negatively viewed and put out to pasture, as it were. And again, conservatives holding on tight to their ideology, and it's been strangled through the decades. And you've had your Rush Limbaughs and your fucking, I can't even think of that other beady motherfucker. What was his name? Beck. Was it Beck?
Alex Jones?
Not Alex
Steve
Jones.
Bannon?
What? Not Sean Hannity.
Glenn Beck?
Glenn Beck, yeah.
Glenn Beck?
Yeah, and people like that like push this right-wing agenda. You have the Drudge Report. And all these things are taking a story, spinning it, and spinning it with what? What's the one thing all these places use over anything else? Do you know what it is? It's a 4-letter F word.
4-letter F word. Fear?
They all use fear. You're absolutely correct. They take a story that they know they can take a few things and twist. Okay, what are conservative Christians afraid of? They're afraid of Muslims and change. Okay, so if we push this Muslim agenda is happening and this is why this crime happened, then clearly you're now pulling the strings and you're brainwashing people at the heart of it. You're pulling them up to think that the reason their life is shitty or whatever's going wrong in their private world is now the Muslim folks' fault. It's the black man's fault. It's the Asian woman's fault or the Hispanic father's fault. You know, I don't know about you, man, but if I had a kid and we lived in this country and we had a dictator type living on top of us and we were always scared for our lives and our freedoms, and we had one option: run 3,000 fucking miles as best you can, or 1,000 miles as best you can to get across to Canada. I think I'm gonna fucking take my chances, bro. And that's what these people that are coming over that are immigrants that are being told, you go back to where you came from and all this shit. No, where's the human side of us? Where did that get lost? We are all human people. I don't want you to get hurt because you probably don't want me to get hurt. I don't want to see you suffer and go through things that would be tragic because it would affect me and it affects the world, that negative drama constantly being fucking bred. So all these things considered, and you just look at the bigger picture and you just go, man, something's broken in the system. How do you even fix it, you know?
Right, definitely. And so whenever I think of, at least of what's going on with like the immigrant crisis and all of this, is that I don't know why it always brings me back to I don't know why it always brings back to film for me, but do you remember the movie Day After Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Do you remember when it came to a point where basically like every first world country was basically toast at the end of that movie and everyone had to go to their third world counterparts first out? They had to basically try and immigrate, like go to the border walls, climb fences, cross through rivers to get to a better life, to escape what the travesties that were happening.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, and then it shows like the vice president became president, who was just so against like what was going on, saw him like hat in hand at the end of that, like being like, they in our darkest hour they welcomed us in, but we don't. I feel like we would love it if someone did that. If we were in that situation, we would love that, but we don't want to be, just because we were in the power seat or whatever, we're wanting to just isolate everyone else, see everyone else as other. That if you're not a white Christian male, really, that you're the other, and whatever happens is wrong. Like, even if you do something wrong, it's always something, it's not your fault. It's basically like, you see what we saw with the shootings that just happened.
Yeah.
They were white Christian male, and it wasn't their fault. It was society. It was video games. It was...
It has nothing to do with the systemic racism that's been driven down our throats literally the entirety of our existence. And either you're man enough and you grow, and I'm sorry I'm going to be a little bit vulgar here, folks, for those of you listening who might not be used to these kind of words being thrown on Puhr 360, but you grow a fucking pair of balls and you realize, like, look, my fellow man being well is a whole fuck ton more important than my one color skin race of people being well. Because if this whole globe can get on the same page, things are going to operate way better for everybody across the board. But as long as we keep putting these invisible barriers between each other because of race, because of gender, because of sexual orientation and creed and all those things, like, the more barriers that get put in between us and the more quote-unquote differences we're led to believe we have to have, the less we feel like we are all people. And all I want is for all these people to just be, we're habitating a place. All of us are one species. That's like if all the orca whales were like, you know what? Any orca whale that doesn't have this certain dot on their back, we're going to go fucking kill them. Fuck those orca whales. That's crazy. That's not how that species works. Right. They all are in tandem.
We've all learned the fact that skin color was all based on your location to better adapt to the area you evolved into. Like, the closer you are to the equator, the darker your skin is. Like, that's...
proven science, bro.
Right. Like, why should we judge people based on that?
Can we talk about that for a second, too? I'm not trying to hijack the show. I know we have a lot to discuss, but I need to get your viewpoint on this. When the fuck did fucking science stop being fact? Like, when did... Oh, they don't know what they're talking about. They're only scientists. They have no idea what they're talking about. Like, that's...
When did science become opinion?
Yes, exactly! Scientists literally, from hypothesis to full-blown idea, they work it out. Does my idea actually work how I think it works? And if it does, that's not a theory, that's a science fact. And if it doesn't work, it's just a theory that maybe in a certain situation it can shift. But I don't understand when scientific facts, you look at our globe and how it's the hottest recorded July in history. Hottest recorded July in history on our planet. We just lost 11 million tons of ice off of the fucking polar ice caps in the north. 11 billion tons of ice, dude, in one day, in 24 hours. That's not a lie. Go look that shit up. That really happened. Science.
Okay, climate change isn't real.
Thank you. No, that's bullshit. Climate change is real. You can see it, man. My fucking dead grandmother, I know it sounds weird, she could see it. I'll never forget, like in 97 or 98, she looked at me and she's like, it never used to be this windy. Something's wrong with our planet. It's so much more windy all the time. And it definitely had started to be more of a windy time in this world, and then storms started being more and more, and then the erratic behaviors with our weathers and our summers and winters flip-flopping and being so, you can have a bizarrely cold day in the middle of summer, you can have a fucking 80-degree day in the middle of winter. Like, that shouldn't happen,
Right. I've noticed even, the last couple years how things have shifted. Like, the hardest part of winter used to hit in, December. Now it hits in, mid-January. How
early Feb, yeah, for sure.
I remember, my birthday was, which is in late February, was, freakishly cold. It's usually, on, the precipice of spring at that point. We saw, usually April, we get all, the rain and stuff. We had, this past May, it was just, downpours for, weeks. Solid weeks. Grass was flooded out. You couldn't mow your lawn. It was just kept growing. It was just too muddy to do anything about it.
Absolutely.
And now we see, in Europe, they've had a record heat wave that's something that they've never seen before. I had a layover in Amsterdam, and literally it was 116 degrees on the runway.
Holy shit.
It's not adorable.
So what'd you do in Amsterdam, bud?
I only had 2 hours. I couldn't do much of anything.
Oh, never mind.
I know, unfortunately. I got some stroopwafels and paid for something in euros. So
I wanted to. I'll say that to you here. That's a good little quick tangent. You guys were talking about the stroopwafel thing at McDonald's. It's just the same. It's the exact same as over there, and it's amazing.
I know. Liz and I think we're going to go try it now that we've had it. We brought some back with us.
Ooh, awesome!
We might still have some. We hopefully have some left. We got like a package and took it back because they have a whole little like in Amsterdam Airport. They had the whole thing of like stuff you can't get anywhere else. So it was like all their little treats and trinkets that you could get.
You're like tiny bottle of absinthe for me.
That would be. Let's have an interesting flight. Let's go.
I don't know if that'd be interesting as much as terrifying.
There's something on the wing of the plane. No. Oh my god.
Sir, it's the wing. It's just the wing of the plane.
Have my own personal the whole Twilight Zone episode just in my head and just.
That's hysterical.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I think it's just crazy that people who just can discount just science just because lobbyists have more money than scientists do.
Yeah.
They can choose to tell you how you think.
And that's something that has to end. And I think Ted Cruz and Ocasio-Cortez actually have a bill together to end lobbying in the Senate and the House. If you might need to look that up to double check me, but I feel like they are a bipartisan bill they put together to end lobbying in Congress, as well as they have another bill together too. I can't remember, but yeah, she's trying to work across the aisle, and I don't know, man. I feel like. Do you remember a time in our country when if something came to a head and you had to vote for it, everybody just went on the floor and they decided, like, we're going to make this vote now and decide whether or not we're cool with it. And now for some reason the Senate's just like, nah, we're just not going to vote on that one. We're not voting on that.
Yeah,
no.
Or it'll get through the Senate and then or get through the House and then go to the Senate. But like, nah, just not gonna hear it out.
Exactly.
Like, you're supposed to represent us. You need to push for like you can't. There's so many backroom deals that we see in Washington. People meeting with people. Like, you even see, like, senators and congressmen that get voted out of office for doing stupid shit will just become lobbyists, use their same connections, and just work some stuff in the background. Stay in the shadows. Because
they want to stay in that money. That's what it all comes down to, bro. Once you get a taste... If being a politician meant... Okay, here's the deal. This is how I want our entire government to be reformed. If this is me throwing it out there, if you're going to be a politician, at whatever level, the government at whatever level will ensure housing and a vehicle for you. That's it. They will also provide you a basic income, not a high dollar income, a basic income just for your basic needs, your groceries and things of that nature. But you don't need to become a millionaire from becoming a politician. That is fucking crazy to me.
Right. I mean, if you look at the foundation, congressmen were in session because when they were out of session, you're supposed to go back to your normal life, have a normal job, and then just get summoned every so often to help push the country forward. Yeah. Like, now people just live in Washington. They get voted once. That's when they stop becoming like an everyman, stop having their promises, and then they get kind of absorbed into that world. I mean, as much as I don't like to use what he says, like, there is a swamp in Washington. But people are happy with it. People roll around in that. Once they get there, it's like, oh, the swamp's actually just full of money. Okay, this is fine.
Yeah.
Don't need to drain it. I'll take the money.
Exactly. It's like once they get a little bit of mud on them, they're like, oh, I guess that's okay. I guess it's fine too. The mud is still covered in shit. They don't really care though, because it's like, oh, right. If I just pretend it's mud, But there's really like blood on people's hands and stuff, and there's like a lot of people, and I'm not trying to call a certain party out. I know that both. Really, across the board, political reform needs to be happening too, because the ideology that we are a two-party system is wrong. It's broken. It can't keep working this way because it's not. If one side doesn't like the other side, what happens? Stalemate. If one side doesn't like the other side, stalemate. It's a never-ending battle.
Right. It's also ridiculous because, like, between the two parties, you have factions within it. Like, oh, these are the far left. These are the moderates. These are the left-leaning. Like, there's all these different subgroups. Like, just make that all separate. Like, we don't need a third party. We just need more parties. We just need people to... Because you're in the end, you're left with two options, and no one's going to check all of your things.
Well, and I think that maybe there needs to be a way that we... why does it have to come down to two people running head to head to run the country? That's literally splitting a divide. And if you had 10 people run for president at the end, and they had a way to do it where every vote does count, every vote does matter, at the end of the day, whoever had the most votes across every state gets it. That's it. End of story. There's no electoral college bullshit. There's no, I don't give a fuck if some states have less per capita people. It doesn't matter. You live in that fucking state, you're voting for it. You have to vote and make your voice known. And if there's 10 candidates and one candidate gets 4 votes more, well, that motherfucker's 4 votes more the president than the guy that didn't get those 4 votes.
Right.
The end.
They should just do it the way they do the best picture at the Oscars. Do a preferential ballot. You rank your people 1 through 10, and then whoever has the least amount of votes gets dropped off. Their votes get pulled to the top. Then the person who wins has the most people like them. Make it the new popular vote.
See, look at that. That is a brilliant way to do it. You just took the Oscars and put it into the political world, and it's something that could totally work. That makes sense to me.
It's not going to necessarily be the person who had the most. Like, it might be the person might have, 49% is everyone's number 1 pick. But if the guy who's the number 2 pick, everyone's number 2 pick, then that guy wins. I mean, that's the downside, but I think that's more universal acceptance of that person.
Absolutely, because it's like, well, you know what? If this guy that I wanted to vote for doesn't work out, at least we'll have this guy. This guy's definitely the good guy. And if everybody agrees that good guy is the good guy, well, then he should maybe be the one to lead our country. But I also think that there need to be a couple other changes in our political system. I think that term limits are a huge deal. That's the other thing Ocasio-Cortez and Ted Cruz are working on, is a term limit deal, I do believe.
The only thing is, it's like voting against a raise. Like, if we're all going to vote to get a raise, is no one going to stop me from voting? It's like, no one's going to vote against giving them something good. It's like voting to win the lottery. Do you want to win the lottery? Sure, I'll vote for that. But they need to know that, it needs to be a public out. Everyone needs to be against. That should almost be someone's campaign platform that has the whole support behind them. The world wants this. We need to make it happen.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, why would you stop?
Well, I think that term limits are important because you have to have fresh ideas constantly in to refresh our nation. And you know what? It runs on both sides of the aisle. You have people who are in the swamp, who are in the GOP, who have done nothing but harm and constantly voted for things that are crazy and made life a lot harder for people. And then on the other side, you have people like Bernie, who have been doing it with no term limit and been fucking finding his way to the top, man. And just took the time to chip away to get into the position to be heard, and became kind of like the internet darling of 2016. But clearly term limits need to be a thing because we always need to have fresh ideas. I also think not only do term limits need to be a thing, I think they need to have a preferential age range. If we're going to vote for politicians, we want them to be from the ages of 25 to 59, and that's it. Or something like that. Maybe that's not the exact number, but somewhere in that spectrum, so that you don't have somebody who has a really tired old agenda who keeps slowing the processes of evolution down. That's all we're doing right now, is slowing the evolution of our nation down by being so not even conservative. We're literally saying, you know what? It's like a kid who is, you tell them you're going to eat your fucking dinner, and I'm not eating my fucking dinner. I'm not having that. No. And you have to almost
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, Moscow Mitch. You almost have to feed it to him,
Right. You look at the point. Do you think AOC's gonna have still have the best ideas 30 years from now? Not necessarily.
Exactly.
She might giving someone an opportunity, because when people first get into these positions, that's when they have the most fire. That's when they're the hungriest. They want to make the change. 10 years later, it goes down a little bit. 10 years after that, it goes down. They just keep getting just a little bit enough to get reelected, and then they can just settle back down again and make little noise, make no ripples, keep status quo.
It stops being about making change to better our country, and it starts being about the paycheck and ensuring that that's coming in to live a certain lifestyle. And then, things run even deeper because we learn that really Washington's seedy, man. There's some fucking weird, not cool stuff going on with people in Washington. We've heard about the whole Epstein thing. He's got connections all over Washington. Makes you question,
Both sides.
Exactly. I didn't say one side. You nailed it on the head. Both sides of the fucking aisle have been seen with this guy. What have they done? What do they know? What gross shit has been happening? And really, once you expose that, that's what I'm saying, man. The whole thing, our entire government needs a shakedown. It needs a complete overhaul. Like, we need to, as people, look at this and go, what the fuck are we doing? We fight each other all the time. There's shootings all the time. No one's fucking happy. Everyone's depressed right now. Right. Everyone's struggling to just keep the fucking lights on. You know, no one's having a fun time. You know, and why are we doing this to ourselves? If we were all for each other, we'd say, fuck you politicians. We'd all put together a plan where we all get a slice of the pie the right way, and things are fucking working a lot more kosher.
Right. I mean, it would make so much sense to just, if we could really get the politicians back working for us instead of working for their own interest or the interests of people who are lobbying them money. Like, we've seen people have a stance, then they have a couple backroom meetings, then their stance suddenly changes.
Exactly. AP, so in the 2028 election, we should run. I'll be old enough, you'll be old enough, I can be VP, you can be Prez, it's cool.
We'll as a network, just fill out the cabinet. We'll do great things.
Oh my god, dude, the Puhr Phillips ballad, like, it sounds good, it rolls off the tongue. Phillips.
We just gotta make sure we put the P's right, or it's gonna look really weird.
Puhr Phillips, 2028.
Remember Trump Pence sign when he, like, the first one was like the T was going through the P, and it was just like, oh no, that's not, no, don't do that.
Total penetration.
That was so bad.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Speaking of Trump, I know I said, like, kind of in the rundown that I kind of want to run through Trump's Twitter, which is always a fun thing to bring up. That was actually one of the first episodes you were on. You talked about Trump's Twitter, and you called him Twitler in chief?
Yeah,
or something?
Twitler. That's right. He still is Twitler, man. Hasn't changed.
It's unfortunate that I'm following him, but I gotta keep an eye on him somehow, right?
Yeah, I don't follow him. I just go and search for that dumb mother effer and...
I still remember that day that someone at Twitter just took down his account for about, like, 6 hours or something crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Someone who had that kind of power, and just, like, everyone freaked out when Trump just didn't exist on Twitter, and he freaked out, and it was just so much fun. Like, I think it was, like, breaking news everywhere. It's like, did Trump just get rid of his Twitter? Like, what's happening?
Did they just ban Trump on Twitter? Oh my god, Twitter actually made a step against the president. Holy shit. And that wasn't even the case. Boring.
He just makes so many things. Oh, before I get this, did you hear you probably saw this today about how he said Toledo today?
Yeah. I heard it's going on to Toledo. You fucking moron bastard. Like, come on, man.
Just reading the prompter.
You know what's crazy? Here's the thing. When Sandy Hook happened, you know what happened? Barack Obama went there, and he tried to help heal the nation. And now we've got these shootings going on, and Trump is not trying to heal the nation. He's just trying to place blame on everything else, shift it off the fact that he is the cause of these shootings. You know? Shift everybody away from the fact that he is the reason these things have continued to happen.
Right. I mean, I remember, like, after, I don't remember which shooting happened, but he came out, like, actually sounding like relatively president. He was against the other politicians that were saying, you're in NRA's pocket, I owe nothing to no one, and, like, I was like, oh, this is actually, like, wow, I didn't think I actually ever hear him say this, and then, like, he had a private meeting with the NRA and then came out business as usual. And I was like, they gave him they put 1 and 2 zeros in front of how much they were giving him just to get him to get back in their good graces.
Yep. It's,
oh my god.
Oh, it's like the NRA. Okay, cool. Yep. You want the bigger paycheck? And because they know, man, they spoke to his appeal. All his appeal is money.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure, we'll throw an extra couple $100 million at you. It's no big deal.
Well, and you see, like, all his little rallies that have where, like, he doesn't pretend to stop people from, like, getting into their darker desires and their darker things. I remember someone said, like, what do you do with, like, immigrants are coming in, and someone, like, screamed out, like, shoot them. And he just, like, smiled and, like, looked away and didn't say anything. And I was like, you're the president. You can't just let that slide.
He wasn't president. He wasn't president, but do you know who wouldn't have let that shit slide? And I saw him not let shit like this slide?
McCain?
John motherfucking McCain, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I remember that when someone was like, whoa. Let's not, like...
They called Obama a bad man. and he stopped his rally and he said, "Ma'am, I have met him and he is a very nice gentleman. We don't see eye to eye on our ideals, and that's all that this is about."
And I don't know why all politicians can't be with each other. I don't know why they have to always go for blood or see them as the worst person ever and try and just sow discord. Like, I don't know why fear appeals to them so much. Why they want us to all fight. Because I guess when we're fighting about something that's...
We can't be unified, man.
Right, it's easier to control that way.
Like, everybody, we've been taught it our whole lives. United we stand, divided we fall. But they divide us. Our own fucking people in the top divide us at a constant rate. Constantly. It's a race war. It's a clash of ideals. And can you have sex with someone of your own sex? And can you smoke cannabis or not? Or whatever the fucking free healthcare for all, or whatever the topics are. Like, you're either on one side or the other, and there's nobody in the middle anymore saying, "Hey, hold on, listen, this Medicare for all thing can work. And it can work this way that they're suggesting, but we need to help explain to people they're saving money doing this, as opposed to making them think making them pay more money. Because It's all about presentation. So, I just think that the division has to stop at the top, and until we, the people, see what I did there, make the decision to make them make that change, we are going to be stuck in the same repeating cycle.
I agree. Sorry, I pulled up his tweets, and while you were saying that, I thought this was kind of funny. So
go ahead.
Trump's top tweet from like 5 hours ago said, "We must honor the sacred memory of those who have lost by acting as one people. Open wounds cannot heal if we are divided. We must seek real bipartisan solutions that will truly make America safer and better for all." I don't think he said any word of that. I think that was written by one of his speechwriters, and he's not acting like what he said here.
He probably didn't even know that tweet went out. Yeah, because they probably do something like this. If there's something like this where they're like, shit, we need to make a move, they're probably like 2 or 3 people that have access to Trump's shit. They probably block notifications on that one post from him ever seeing that there's any interaction. And he's none the wiser, dude. He would never pay attention to it. He's not scrolling through his shit looking at old posts. He writes it, forgets he ever fucking wrote it, and moves on.
And that's how we end up with those weird...
Kofife.
Yep, that's the one. Did you see that he also talked about the death penalty for mass murderers and those who commit hate crimes?
No, I did not see this. Please enlighten me.
He said, he tweeted, "Today I am also directing the Department of Justice to propose legislation ensuring that those who commit hate crimes and mass murders face the death penalty, and that this capital punishment be delivered quickly, decisively, and without years of needless delay." If that is true, that's actually, I think,
good.
Something that should happen. Yeah, if he can manage to keep that, but this is all words. Like,
it means nothing until they're... Exactly, you just said it best. Actions. It's all about action. It's all about that fucking Moscow Mitch getting his head out of his ass and his broken shoulder and bringing his ass back to Washington to get shit done, because it's time. And you can't fucking keep recess happening because you're fucking afraid to come back.
I saw something I thought was the best thing after he hurt his shoulder. It said, "Well, at least Mitch McConnell's able to bring something to the floor."
Oh, man. It could have ended so much cooler, though. I hate to be dark like that, but like he is fucking up our country, bro. It's
all he wants
so
to do
sad.
is just confirm judges. Like, all he cares about getting conservative judges in there, and then that's really it. He could care about anything else. It was the same reason he made Barack Obama's second term mostly a lame duck presidency, is because he just didn't care.
Yep.
He'd rather have nothing done than something that he didn't like.
Exactly, and that's what's wrong and broken with the system.
Right. And speaking of kind of the old guard, we know that right now we kind of have a crazy number of Democratic candidates. Basically what we saw in 2016 with the Republican field, we now have that same situation on the Democratic side.
It's March Madness, but it's fucking Democratic nominees, you know?
Right. Like, it's crazy. Like, there is so many of them that they have to do 2 nights of debates with 10 people each night. Like, this, they just had a couple episodes back, I talked about the first one. They just had their second one last week. And literally, it's like there's no one that's really standing out from the pack that I can see. Everyone has their pluses and minuses, and there are some people like, why are you even on this stage? Like, who are you? Like, you're getting a minute to talk and nothing else is happening. Sorry, I kind of jumped on you there.
Oh, no, you're okay. You're totally okay. I just have a lot of thoughts. I've as I was saying earlier when we were discussing this, I keep up with my politics and stuff. And with these debates, I've watched both nights. I've watched the candidates talk. I've watched the candidates talk after these tragedies that our nation has just suffered. And I'm following everything, and I'm noticing some things. There are some people to me that stand out. I think if you read a little bit deeper between the lines and what they're, if you look at when I as a voter, my vote isn't always just policy. My vote is also, what does this person's personality bring to evolving our nation? Okay, and I think that's why Bernie in 2016 was like, apples to oranges, the best choice. If he makes the ballot fair and clear, there's no question he wins. He runs away with it insanely, and I think that's been proven, and that's why they made sure that didn't happen. But
before we get off this, do you think there was a lot of people that once Hillary, otherwise simple said, stole the nomination, how everything went out that way? Do you think a lot of people ran to Trump that were Bernie supporters?
Yeah, they felt burned by the DNC, man. They felt like, how can we even trust this party? This guy is talking all this shit, and maybe you had to ignore all the racist rhetoric because he was saying something about draining the swamp, and you're like, fuck yeah, we need to drain the fucking swamp. Bernie just got fucked. What the fuck, man? Like you're all upset about it or whatever. But that appeals to some people. Some people go, okay, fuck it, I'll bite the bullet. I'll vote for Trump. And now we're all eating it. We are all eating it.
Right. We were all... they wanted something different, and they got something different, but it wasn't good. They felt the burn, and now we're all burned for it. Exactly.
And, I think that's an interesting thing to note is, like, when you look at the candidates who are currently running for the presidential nomination on the Democratic side, there are some people that there's no chance. Like, I'm going to give them less than 0%. If you were to run down the list of names, or if I were to pull up the list of names and we were to go through them, like John Hickenlooper, not a fucking chance. You got, Bill Inslee? I think he's the Washington governor.
Bill de Blasio?
Bill de Blasio, but there's an Inslee, too.
Jay Inslee.
Jay Inslee. Thank you. Yeah. So,
yeah,
they're
all...
Bill de Blasio, Jay Inslee, same thing. Two sides of the same coin. They don't have brave enough ideas. You've also got, what's his fucking name? It starts with a D. I can see his face. He got burned real bad by Elizabeth Warren. John Delaney. There we go.
Not to be confused with John Mulaney, who's a comedian.
Totally. Thank you for saying, too. I'm glad you did that. So he also, I don't think, has a chance. Andrew Yang, I think, has some really brave ideas. Honestly, he is a dark horse candidate. However...
I know a lot of people love him.
However... I think they're a little bit too radical for what we need right now. We can get to the steps. We can get to universal basic income at some point, but it's going to have to come to see that universal Medicare for all can work, and that other programs like that can work, and also to recognize, and the one thing that Andrew Yang, I really appreciate about his campaign, and he talks about it, is like job automation is tripling at an alarming rate, and before you know it, there aren't going to be jobs for people because they're all going to be automated. Right?
We've seen how the fast food industry is adopted. Like, there's no registered people anymore. There's no people taking orders. It's a screen.
Yep. And
you got like one person make sure all the screens are working, and then it used to be 3 registers or 4 registers of people waiting to take your order. Now it's like 7 screens. Then one person is just kind of like, everything. You can just fill out your stuff over there.
Oh, number 57.
They're working themselves.
57. Double cheeseburger.
Yeah.
57. 57.
And I've even seen it, like, because I get stuff when I'm working on the house, stuff from Home Depot. Home Depot's gone very self-checkouts now, which I thought of a hardware store would never go that way.
That is one that is very interesting to see the whole section. Like, I mean, literally, the part of the store where they call it the exit is where all the self-checkouts are, but technically the entrance is your customer service desk / like 2 registers where there's a lady working, and she's always,
that's exactly.
pissy that you went over to her.
Yes. even though you're keeping her job around, because otherwise there'll just be no person. Everyone, never had a ton of people in the store to help me.
Exactly.
Let alone now find someone at a register. But before we talk more about these candidates, I wanted to kind of play a game with you just to prove how crazy this is. I want to see how many of the Democratic candidates you can name.
Okay.
There are 25 of them.
Okay,
And I have them all written down. That's how I was able to recall some of them. And I'm just going to see how many you can name.
Okay, let's go slowly. We'll work our way through them. I've kind of named some of them, but we'll get into it. Okay, so let's take the big dogs off the top. You got Joe Biden.
Yep.
Bernie Sanders.
Yep.
Elizabeth Warren.
Mm-hmm.
Kamala Harris.
Yep.
Cory Booker.
Mm-hmm.
Pete Buttigieg.
Yep.
Beto O'Rourke.
Yep.
Amy Klobuchar. I got this, bro. No phone. Look, you can look at my hands. No phone. Look, my phone is off, too. I just want you to see. I don't have no prompt here. This was on the spur of the moment.
8.
You got me 8. Okay, Amy Klobuchar. Let's go. Okay, so Jay Inslee.
Yep.
Bill de Blasio.
Mm-hmm.
John Delaney.
Yep.
John Hickenlooper.
Yep.
Tim Ryan.
Yep. And he actually just dropped out of the race.
Oh, really?
Today. Yeah.
I didn't know.
Which is really surprising because being a Ohio rep, he's been in the news a lot today talking about the fault of the shooting, but I did see that he did drop out. I don't think it kind of got dwarfed in the news, but I think that's what I read, that he had dropped out of the race officially.
Okay, Tulsi Gabbard.
Yes.
Am I at 15? 15 or 14?
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
14.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So, I'm trying to... Andrew Yang, obviously.
Yep.
Julian Castro.
Yep.
I can't think of her first name, but it's the author, Williams. Maria Williams?
Marianne Williamson.
Marianne Williamson, yeah.
Yeah, she's an interesting person.
Yeah, she is very interesting. I actually really enjoyed some of the things she was saying.
You're getting down into the...
Did I say Pete? Did I say Mayor Pete?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
There's really only a few left, and there's some of those are weird. And I'll give you one that of the 25 that did drop out after the last debate, and that was Eric Swalwell.
Oh yeah.
He had that big thing about the passing the torch in the last debate that I thought was pretty poignant. But he did drop out after that, and then someone came in and filled his spot, so that didn't help anything.
Yeah, of course.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 7 left.
7 left.
3, 4, 5. Yep.
God, and it's almost like, I feel like some of these people haven't had big moments,
Yeah, and I would tell you that you actually pretty much only have all the ones that have actually talked. There's some people that just are polling so low they don't actually count. I just pulled this from the list of people who have put in their paperwork to be on the ballot. But there's a few that have been speaking, but there's some that just I didn't know they existed before I pulled this list together.
Oh, you know what? What was the fuck was that guy's name from? He was a corporate dude. I can't think. He was like the Starbucks guy. He was running for. I cannot think of that guy's name, but he was technically running as well.
Yeah. What was his name? I honestly don't. I have his name in front of me, but I don't know which one's the guy. Let's see here. Starbucks president. That was. It's Howard Schultz, and he decided not to run.
He didn't end up running.
Yeah, he put his support behind Biden.
Oh, what about? I know one. I got one. Lady, Kirsten Gillibrand.
Yep.
Kirsten Gillibrand.
That is all the women.
Okay.
Now you got, and I don't know if you're gonna. There's 2 that I think you could get, and I think the other 4 I don't even know who they are.
Then I don't think I have any more because I can't think of any more.
Yeah, you did awesome. You did better than I thought. I don't think I could have named all these people. So yeah, kudos to you. Michael Bennett.
Oh,
one of them.
Fuck yeah. Okay.
Steve Bullock.
name is familiar. I don't think he ever hit my radar as somebody that I would have even taken seriously.
I don't think he actually spoke at the debate stage because he's polling so low. Stephen Colbert had him on his show to talk because he did a little debate with just Steve Bullock. That was kind of funny. We have Wayne Messam, which nothing. Seth Moulton. Then you have Joe Sestak, and then Tom Steyer, like guys that just I don't know who you are, but you got all the big dogs out of the way, and yeah, there's definitely a lot of interesting candidates. I feel like we're in an issue that's I don't think anyone's really staying out. Everyone's just focusing on
I pretty much got everybody in the debates, didn't I?
You did. You had 2 people that were in the debates, and that's it. Really, just Michael Bennett. I think everyone else. Because I don't think
I missed. Swalwell was the only one I missed that was also in the debates too. Yeah, but
right, but he technically dropped out. He was in the first debate. He was the red-haired guy. But yeah, you had it nailed, which proves that you've been paying attention, watching the debates. You're definitely very plugged into all of this.
Well, man, you know what? As a 32-year-old male who has something to live for, our country is in desperate need of fixing and healing. And if me paying attention to all this shit as best I can to really deeply consider who I'm going to vote for when that time comes, like, I want to make sure I'm making the right choice because it's bigger than me. And I don't listen. In previous times that I've voted, I mean, first time I voted was actually for Barack in his first term in 08. Second time for Barack in 12, right? And then I voted for Bernie, which, maybe that's on me a little bit, but I was sticking to my guns that Bernie Sanders should have.
Did you write in Bernie?
Yes, I did. I did, in fact, write in Bernie. In Illinois, where he had a space, so they did consider that vote. It wasn't like a throwaway.
Are you registered to vote in Illinois?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir. But
do you think your home state's going to go for Buttigieg in the primaries?
I do, actually. And he's overall the most well-rounded candidate. He's the right age. In my heart, more than anything, and I don't think a lot of people are talking about this, it's fucking JFK all over, bro. He's got that. He's the right young age. He's poised. He stays so focused. There's not been a moment in any of the debates that anyone's rattled him, thrown him off his game. He has went at people and stood his ground. His response to the shootings that have just recently occurred was definitely more seriously taken than the president is taking them. And like I said, he's just young enough that has the idea and the spark. And it's like, no offense, if it's Bernie, I'm going to obviously vote for Bernie. But in the primaries, my vote's going to Pete Buttigieg, man. I'm telling you. I mean, at this point, he would have to make a serious fuck up. There'd have to be serious allegations against him or something crazy to happen for me to be like, I can't feel good about voting for this guy.
And he did even handle the stuff that happened in South Bend when he had to kind of take a break from the campaign and deal with stuff back home when there was like a shooting of a cop. And
no, there was a cop that shot a guy.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, an innocent black man got killed.
And he had to be the mayor again. He had to be kind of suspend the campaign for a little bit, but he handled that all really well. One thing I do like about him is that he is, like you said, he's very not soft spoken, but he doesn't feel the need to like yell or really like throw at another candidate to just get their word in edgewise. He's kind of like the Teddy Roosevelt. You kind of speak softly and let your actions speak for you.
Yeah, you walk softly, carry a big stick.
Definitely.
And you know what? And he has listen, I'm going to just break it down to you. He checks all the boxes for me. Do I want somebody who has military experience leading our nation? Yeah, because they know what the fuck it's like to be over there. They would know what it's like to say, we're going to have to send, troops over to this country to fight. They're going to know that struggle of having to get that call that you're going to war. So, who better? He's a gay man. That's awesome. What does our country need more than anything than someone who says, look, I am not what you would typically expect, and it doesn't make anything fucking different. Who I love does not affect you at all, and that's what we need. Because, and again, more healing. Everybody's like, "Oh shit, man, this guy's actually really level-headed." Like, okay, I can get behind it, His ideology.
He's also a veteran.
What's up? A veteran, yes, absolutely.
Which we haven't had in at least the past 2 presidents.
Correct. So, and I mean, across the board, you look at Pete Buttigieg, and even in his policy, his ideology, how I think he was maybe the one who explained the tax thing for the middle class the best when talking about health care for all. Because he said it like this: if you're a middle class family who's paying X amount of dollars for your premium for insurance, that's going to be gone. And instead you're going to pay a little bit more in taxes, which is like maybe $10, let's say. And that little increase is going to ensure that everybody, including yourself and your kids, has the best health care possible. We're supposed to be the best nation in the world. We should have the best health care, right? We should all be living the longest fucking lives if we were the best country in the world.
Exactly.
They would ensure every single person is healthy.
And aren't we like 40? Not 44th. We're pretty low on that list of healthiest countries.
Yeah, we're not that healthy. Keeping it real.
No. I know we're running a little long here, at least for what my audience is used to. So let's just. I picked mine just now, and I kind of want to see who do you think is going to be the last 5 candidates standing on the Democratic side going into.
I love this question. Okay, and I love it because, first of all, it's almost obvious how this is going to play out, and I'm going to also throw a 6th curveball at you that's not somebody I think that's going to be left standing, but that they are going to be involved in the presidential race, and you're going to be like, what the fuck? Whoa. Okay, so here's my final 5. I think Bernie, Liz Warren, Joe Biden, Mayor Pete, and it's most likely going to be, I mean, even though I don't personally believe she should be there, I think Kamala Harris has enough of a following right now that's going to push her into that final 5. Then what I would like to see out of that final 5 is, I don't care who it is in the final 5, 2 of those final 5 need to be Pres VP and just put it to bed. We're banding together.
I agree. I had the same 5 written down. I know they're the ones that are probably getting the most screen time. They're the ones that are most talked about. Beto O'Rourke's been around a lot, especially since the Ted Cruz thing, but I don't think it's his time yet.
Well, and his El Paso thing, I don't know. Did you see he had like a little bit more of an explosive response to Trump this morning?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to come off well if he was debating against Trump, to be honest. I think they're both it'd be like just yelling.
An argument. It would be an argument.
And I don't think that's what we need. Someone like Pete or someone who can just take it.
Mayor Pete would just talk through Trump.
Right.
He would just be like, I don't care what you're saying about me. I'm not going to take anything personal. I have a goal. It's to say what I need to say and keep my points solid,
right. I mean, I personally like Julian Castro. I think he's got some good ideas.
He's not there yet.
Probably be
like 5-10 years from now, he'll be in a prime position to be running for president. I absolutely agree with you.
Right. I definitely believe like Cory Booker and some of these other guys that are running right now, I think would make good cabinet members, stick with their do what they want to do, and attach it as a rep, as a senator, to bring this forward. And then the next election, because of those 5 that we picked, these aren't people who are going to maybe do a term, some of these are getting older, like Bernie and Biden and Elizabeth Warren aren't getting any younger.
Yeah, I feel like if Bernie or Biden, really, Biden's not a senator or anything right now, so it doesn't really matter for him. But if Bernie and or Liz Warren don't win the bid and go, they will walk away from Congress officially because of their age.
You think they'll just retire and call it good?
I do. I really do. I think that Elizabeth Warren fighting with the president for as long as she has is taking a toll on her more than she realizes. I think the same could technically be said for Bernie and how much he advocates change. He is like the literal... he is the reason that we have such progressive ideas coming through this these debates and these ideals that we're talking about with these candidates. But to really quickly keep this all together, I don't think that Mike Pence is going to be vice president if Trump runs again. When Trump runs again,
I kind of thought, to be honest, at least how things were going more recently, or even like in the last year, I kind of thought Pence was going to jump ticket and run against him in the primary.
Interesting.
With the inside stuff. I kind of thought, but I don't think it would have done well, and I think it would have just been a mess.
Yeah, it would have been a massacre.
He's a little too into the Kool-Aid to break off now, but I wouldn't be surprised if Trump with someone else.
What if I told you that someone else has already been picked, has already been on Fox News, and is on the other side of the aisle?
Who are you? I don't know this. Who are you talking about?
Okay, so follow me if you will. Here's something that I find very bizarre, but in all of this build, there's been one question mark that I keep trying to see where she stands, and every time I think I have an eye on where her headspace is, I get a little bit more confused, and that is Tulsi Gabbard. And I believe that Tulsi Gabbard could totally jump party and go be Trump's VP as a way to say, let's bridge the gap, let's all work together. All you people that voted for me that don't get to see me as president, here's an opportunity for us to bridge our nation and make everything right. And you know what? I'm not going to lie. It's going to get some people excited and enticed, and they're going to think about it. But here's the thing. Why the fuck is a Democrat who is completely opposed, or at least should be opposed, to racism and xenophobia, going on the most racist, xenophobic person television show in Tucker Carlson and giving fucking interviews about Kamala Harris, who is a Democrat?
That is true. And Trump sees it as a female minority from one of the continental 50 states. It's checking a lot of his boxes. It helps him appeal. People see it as a ticket of party unity. The people who are against the divide might see that as a way out. They know it's easier to get someone reelected than it is to get someone from their ticket elected. It's kind of a smart move, which I don't think is something that he chose to do. I think someone put that in his head.
But the thing that's interesting is there are people that have connected her to Russia, and they haven't made that official yet, but there are people that are like, we're like 40% sure she's been getting hidden Russian donations. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point that also comes to light.
We'll see. She's talking a lot, but I don't think she's polling well. So yeah. We'll see what happens. I think it's once we can get all of the people on the debate stage that are running, I think once we can get down to 10 and less, I think we'll be able to get a better idea. Because right now we're getting people that have not even debated each other yet. Well,
and I think aren't we down to the final 10? Because didn't they say that the next poll or the next debate on ABC is only 10 people and 5 or 6 of them have already officially qualified, and that's it?
Yeah, I think they're tightening the rules to say you have to have a certain threshold, a certain polling point.
It's polling and it's donation. Your campaign donation. Yeah.
So I think once it gets, I think it is 10. It's 10 or 12, but yeah, I think we're gonna get it down to a tighter number, which will mean some more benefit conversations as long as the moderators cannot try and just undercut and try and cause infighting. I think we'll have a good thing there.
And
but I feel like
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, dude.
No. And I feel like we could talk for. I know once we get close to the next debate, we might have you on for a two-parter, one before the debate and one after the debate. Really dive into this, and I think that would be a lot of fun.
I would absolutely love that. I would love to even, if we could pull it off, and I know it's hard because sometimes it's on the week nights, but I would love to watch the debate with you and just like riff during it. Maybe we could like do something like this where we're watching it together while we're on.
Do like a live stream.
Yeah, but one thing to note is I do think that when we do get down to that final 5, you said it best. How cool would it be if all 5 said, we're coming together to be the cabinet? Like, all 5 of us are banding together. We don't care. We'll decide president in a minute. We'll figure that out, but we just want the American people to know the 5 of us are all on the same page. We believe Mayor Pete is a good shot for prez. We want Bernie to be the, Secretary of State or whatever the fuck. However you want to splice those people in.
If you had it show up at like the Democratic convention, but like this is our ticket, like not just the president, vice president. This is our crew. We'll fill out the rest how we see fit, but this is the future. I think that would blow some minds and turn some heads, and I think that would be
ultimate unifier.
Trump would not be able to stop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
an ultimate unifier. We have to look at it like that, man. We really do. We have to hope. And I mean, even listen, and I can also say this: even if only two of those people come together, like a Sanders Warren ticket, or a Buttigieg Warren, or a Warren Buttigieg, or it would never happen, but like a Biden Harris.
Yeah, that would. As much as I liked the idea originally, I was like, "There's no way now. They're
they're too diametrically opposed, and she does not like him, and has made that clear."
Oh,
so
I just love the go easy on me kid. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, but I mean, she got popped in that second debate. Kamala Harris, Tulsi Gabbard went at her hard, and she wasn't wrong. She told facts, and she shut her down, and it came to the point where it was like Kamala Harris had no comeback, had nothing to say about these, locking people up for marijuana crimes and laughing about smoking it, and stuff like that.
Everyone's got skeletons, and got to take punches and give them in this debate, it seems. But
so far, though, I think that, like I said, and I just want to keep it real, at least in my immediate knowledge, I don't think Mayor Pete's got a lot of skeletons, man. He's a very open and out there kind of dude.
Right. As much as when he started getting like buzz around him, when he started like being in the news, where I was like, why is this mayor from random town Indiana suddenly this? He essentially, I feel like, almost captured the Bernie effect of 2016. That had the grassroots, but a lot of people are unifying him for someone who no one knew about 4 years ago.
But it's because that when they it's people who are able to see, like, there's a lot of people, man, right now that no matter what happens in the primaries and everything else, there are people who are still going to vote out Bernie. They're going to vote for him to be the guy no matter what. They're going to vote for him in the primaries. If he doesn't make the ticket, they're going to still fucking vote for him to be president. And it's not going to be nearly the number I think it was when it happened because of Hillary.
Right.
But
it's not as fresh.
But it's not going to be as vile and as crookedly done. This time it would be more based on vote number alone is what I think it's going to kind of come down to. So, all things considered, when you see somebody like Mayor Pete that's so elegant and he can talk and he has a good background and a solid person and a very conservative town like South Bend, Indiana, voted a gay man as their mayor, that says a lot. They embraced him because he wanted to bring change. He advocated for change, and it advocated for enough change that he said, I should maybe run for president. Maybe we could do this on a big scale. And that's ambition that knows no stopping it. That's the kind of person you want to be a president.
Right. Oh,
I changed things for the better on a small scale. Now we can make it better worldwide. Of course.
Right. I think they'll look at what he did for that small conservative town. Not really small. South Bend's still a big city.
I mean, it's the home of Notre Dame, the football team, I'm pretty sure.
Right. But now giving them the house to play with, I think will be I think great. So we'll have to really see how the rest of another year before this thing's really going to tighten up.
Who's your candidate though? I mean, Trump. Right now in your mind, who's your pick? Who's got you impressed? We didn't really discuss.
Yeah, I don't want to. I haven't really latched on to one specific candidate. I'm still in that point where I have my top five. I'm kind of really between. Like, going out of the first debate, I think Kamala Harris was my candidate. I know she's taken a lot of licks in this last debate. I still think she's I think the right age. I'm still really Biden, Sanders, and Warren. They have the name recognition. They have the kind of the experience, but I think they're on their way out. And I think we need a younger candidate to go against Trump, who's also going to be an older candidate at the time of the election.
Absolutely.
And I think really with Harris or Buttigieg, or even a ticket of them two, would be a strong way to go. I know their views aren't 100% in line with each other, so we'll kind of have to see how that shakes out. But I think I'm leaning more Harris than Buttigieg, but I think they're both strong candidates. I think the other three have the name recognition, the donations, the network that'll carry them through down to that 5. But we'll see. There's some, not smoking gun, but there's going to be some that's going to narrow this thing down fast, and I don't know what that's going to be yet, but I'm expecting it to happen. The same reason that Trump was able to make himself the different, and in 2016 amongst all those Republican candidates, they're all pretty well equipped for the job. There's going to be something that's, I think, going to shrink that group, or at least drop off about half of them, if not more.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be a mixture of, in these next debates, them really hitting some harder topics, getting real with these candidates, and making them bring to the table what they mean to bring to the table. We need to see their person, and you know what? It's like Cory Booker. He talks for days. He's great at talking. I would not vote for him for president in a heartbeat. Not at all. He is too dry for me. He doesn't... There's no passion. It's this fake passion, and everybody's kind, and it's not the world I live in, man. I've seen too much, you know? It doesn't work that way. You have to be a little bit more gritty.
I agree. Well, I think we should wrap this up for today. Definitely want to thank you a lot. We've had some great conversation tonight, Nate. It's been a blast. I cannot wait to talk to you more about this. I think Puhr 360 and the 2020 election is going to be some great content, and I think hopefully we end up with a great president who can definitely reverse course from a lot of stuff that's been going on right now and give us a brighter future than what we're dealing with right now.
We need a doctor president to heal our nation.
Exactly. Because we don't have a health issue, we have a sickness issue.
I like that, yeah. We do. We're all down with the sickness.
Get down with sickness. Alright, well that will do it for Puhr 360, episode 30, the unofficial 100th episode that I have done. Thanks again, Nate, for being here. That will do it. Definitely stay tuned. I know there's a lot of great content coming the rest of the week with other shows, so definitely stay tuned for that. And definitely check out the OGs. I know that's a show that I like. It's very off the cuff. If you like podcastrophe and you just want something kind of that similar vein, OGs is the way to go. It's stories, history, and it's fun. And I remember even this last episode, I was able to remember some of the people being talked about. And it was kind of a fun trip down memory lane. And I think that's what that show gives you, and if you weren't there or knew the people involved.
Awesome, man. I'm glad you guys are enjoying that show. It's like a new favorite thing for me to do. Brandon and I's chemistry is obviously undeniable. So being able to continue doing what we've done so well together for as many years as we have is man, there's nothing cooler, honestly. And it's also nice because it's not him coming back to Journey into Comics and us just doing the same shit we were doing. It's a different, completely thing. It's totally not that anymore, and that's cool. It's like we almost needed. It's very Infinity War / Endgame. We had the snap. We lost some people. Some people got blipped back. Some people stayed gone for good. That's just the way it is. We can't change those things. But we got Brando back. We didn't lose the kid, and it's all good, man. I thank you so much for having me on this 100th episode. This is the third or fourth 100th episode of a podcast I've been on now, so that's really cool.
There you go. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, man.
You have to go down for Bruce whenever that happens.
Soon. That's coming real soon. I'm really excited for that. Yeah, so looking forward to that one. And, there's other shows that'll be hitting episode 100 before we know it, too. I know Foodies is almost episode 75 overall lifetime, so that's cool.
That's exciting. I was about to ask you that. 'Cause I knew it was getting close. I know it's hard because there's been the breaks and it is every other week, but I knew it was getting up there. So
yeah, we've definitely put it in.
That'll be a nice milestone when we get to that 100th episode. If it happens to fall in this season, the next season, who's to say? But it'll be great.
Yep, and I want to thank everybody that's been checking out the Journey into Comics Network for the past 2 years. Like I said, we are now going to be on the cusp of celebrating our 2-year podcast anniversary.
Party.
Or network anniversary, I guess, would be the way we'd call that one. But I digress. That's fine. It's fine. I'm going to let you take over, man. I feel like I just got into autopilot mode. My bad.
Yes, you're wrapping up the show, but it's great. You are the Podfather. None of us would be here if it wasn't for you and wasn't for Brandon. So being able to have this platform has been great. And yeah, here's to 100 more episodes. Thanks again for listening. That'll do it for Puhr 360 for this week. You guys have a great week. You've been listening to Puhr 360. You can find us on the socials at Puhr 360 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find us and all the other podcasts on our network at journeyintocomics.com or early access at patreon.com/journeyintocomics. You can find us on all podcasting platforms like Castbox, Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and many others.